Welcome back to Miami. We are back from Dubai and back home, back at base. Today I thought I would come on and just give you a little bit of information, raise some awareness about gut health. Having dealt with autoimmune disease pretty much for my whole life and had some really severe flare-ups this last 5-6 years, and many of you have followed me probably aware of some of these issues that I've had, but it's really impaired a lot of my ability to perform on a business level, and I've also, as an athlete, lost quite a lot of tissue and been through some real severe bouts where I've been hospitalised and in bed for weeks upon weeks. Autoimmune is no joke, and it's something that's not very well understood by the medical community. Traditional medicine doesn't really have any answers yet. Awareness is growing and people are becoming more aware of it because of how prevalent it's become. And the reasons for the prevalence of autoimmune disease is due to many environmental factors and due to the quality of food, especially over here in the USA. If you look at the amount of processed foods and non-naturally occurring ingredients that are used in food, it's pretty much an experiment over here. Food is pretty much an experiment, and there's so many ailments in people's health, and many of them are autoimmune related, and they're all stemming from the gut. I mean, you can just look at the list of ingredients, the USA versus, for example, the UK, which still isn't perfect. I mean, many people go on vacation in Europe and be able to eat pasta and bread and be absolutely fine, but when they come back to the US, their guts busted as soon as they try anything like that. So food is playing a massive part, as well as stress, the environmental factors, all the new technologies. I mean, the environment's changing so rapidly and our body is being forced to adapt, and we will adapt, but this is where a lot of us are struggling right now, and it's growing and growing and growing. We're seeing increased rates of pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes in the youth, and it's all stemming from the food supply and environmental factors. It's compounding, and having suffered with it and knowing how deleterious it can be, I'm going to be devoting a lot of time in showing you guys how I try and modulate that, and how much some of these environmental factors will affect me. Stress is massive. I've had to make some real life changes this last 18 months to 2 years. The last 18 months I've really dialed back the amount of availability I have and really focused my attention on giving my time to very few people that I know are not going to cause me too much stress, because I run multiple businesses. I put my body through the ring of training intensely. I do cardio AM and PM. It's just part of my lifestyle. My body is always being pushed and being tested. And then obviously with the business, the stress is something, the stress is a load, mental stress and the pressure of running businesses and the exposure to stress that I don't think many people who haven't been exposed to it are ever going to comprehend. As my business grew, my physical performance in the gym and my ability to output as an athlete, it deteriorated, and I had a really hard time getting my head around that. And it's something that, with hindsight, I should have been smarter with, and even now I'm a meathead and a knucklehead, and I'll still push my body and dig a hole that's really difficult to get out of. But I'm much more aware, and I have practices in place that I can pull myself out of that hole a lot better than I used to be able to, and that's because my education and knowledge base has grown, and as well as the availability of certain products has also grown. So I'm just going to talk to you now about some things I do every day, and this isn't to repair gut health, and it's more to maintain some of the things I do. One thing that I do every morning is I use a glutamine in the form of Good Morning. I will do 2 scoops of this as opposed to 1 to get 10 grams of glutamine. It's imperative for maintaining integrity of gut lining, and also the Good Morning has aloe vera, slippery elm, marshmallow root, lemon powder. Really good at detoxifying, getting rid of any toxins that are in the gut, and it really helps reduce bloating and prepares my gut for nutrient uptake and absorption later on in the day. I also pair that with either colostrum, or at the moment I'm using lactoferrin, which is derived from milk or derived from colostrum. Colostrum is produced by the mother in the early stages of birth, and that's why it's always best to drink your mother's milk, because you get high levels of colostrum. You also get something called human milk oligosaccharides, which I'll talk about at another time, so I do include that in some gut health protocols. That's a naturally occurring fibre that we actually get in breast milk and helps with a healthy formation of the gut when we're young. But all of these things becoming integral now as we're starting to get a compromised gut. So I will do 2 scoops of this, which gives you 10 grams of glutamine and all the excipients that I mentioned earlier on. And I'll have some lactoferrin, and that's just every morning. That's baseline for me, just to try and give my gut some support. So what happens when we start to get a permeable gut barrier, and what is autoimmune? Like what can happen? Well, this is very individual. So when we have a highly processed foods, high levels of stress, we're putting in things that can almost act as like a foreign substance to the body and cause damage to the gut lining. Our tight junctions, which maintain the integrity of the gut wall, they start to spread apart and create gaps. I'm sure you've heard of something called leaky gut. This is leaky gut syndrome. We have these gaps that appear in those tight junctions, and that's what we call gut permeability. And what goes into the bloodstream could be microbes, toxins, particles of food. And once that is in the bloodstream, the body's like, hell, I don't know what these are. These are foreign substances, and it'll launch an immune response. And that'll be like an inflammatory cascade, and you'll get levels of inflammation. And over time, this will compound. And inflammation on inflammation, your body is not going to deal with that well. And when you have high levels of inflammation, the body's going to keep creating these immune responses, and it'll start not to differentiate between these foreign substances and the body's own tissues. And that's what an autoimmune response is. It's when your body starts attacking your own tissues. Now, on a personal level, I mean, I've had this so many times, and it's not predictable, guys. It can be any part of the body. Right now I'm dealing with issues with my pancreas. I've got very high levels of lipids and amylase, and it's something that I'm going to be fixing, and I'm going to be sharing with you an aggressive protocol with supplementation, peptides and dietary interventions to fix this, because I'm not absorbing food. That's why I've lost so much tissue. And it's really hard for people to understand when they've not been through it. So this is hitting my pancreas, so I'm just like, literally every time I came back from Dubai at 270 pounds last January. I lost 50 pounds in 2 weeks, because literally everything that I ate went straight through me. And that was autoimmune, and it's actually been the best part of a year that I'm still fixing that. And I've not done a really aggressive regimen because I was traveling so much, and I was like, I can fix it with nutrition. And so I'm going to be doing a very aggressive protocol, which I'm going to be sharing with all of you, which is going to involve supplementation, diet, peptides, and you're also going to be seeing me with Genesis Regenerative. I'm actually a partner in Genesis Regenerative, which is something I've not shared or talked about. Regenerative medicine, stem cells, exosomes, that's something I'm heavily involved in. I've been heavily involved in for the past year. I'm going to be sharing all that information, so that's really not known about too well in our industry. And in general, biohackers are obviously trying to leverage that as much as possible, but we're on the front line and the cutting edge, and it's pretty exciting for me to be a part of a group that are looking to really change the way that medicine, health is done. It's not conventional. I'm excited to share all of that with you. But back to the point, the case in point. So that was my pancreas, but it can hit thyroid, it can hit liver, it can hit any tissue. Autoimmune is not tissue specific. It can go anywhere in the body. And remedying that can be really, really difficult. You'll notice with autoimmune, and when you start having these issues with your gut, your brain does not function the same. And I deal with I'm very fortunate to be exposed to dealing with a lot of high-level professional athletes, but also a lot of high-level executives. And brain function is very important to everybody, but executives, when they start lagging, when I start lagging brain-wise, it's very frustrating. And it's not just, I was going to talk about myself here, it's not just me who relies on these decisions, it's my company, it's my staff. And if my brain's not functioning and I'm not productive, as highly productive as I could be and highly functioning, and my decision making is not 100% on point, that can affect everybody around me. So it'd be selfish not to really take care of it. So anyway, that's a little bit about autoimmune and gut health. I'm going to be doing lots of this, and putting lots of information out on this, because it's something that's really not too well understood, and it's something that more and more people are suffering with, and I hate seeing people suffer with it and they can't get answers with conventional medicine. So here's two things, like I mentioned, that I use every time. I suggest that this should be part of everyone's regimen. You can use lactoferrin, colostrum is also good, human milk oligosaccharides are also good. With athletes, if you're an athlete, I would also suggest these two. We're just getting to the tail end of Jamie's prep. I don't know if you saw me out in Dubai with Jamie, and we're introducing some orals, and the first thing I did was to add colostrum to support his gut health and maintain his gut lining. And this will be the same for anyone. If you're using any NSAIDs or any type of medication, prescription medication, anything oral, that is going to mess with your gut. It's going to cause issues in the gut lining, and again, you could get leaky gut really quickly from that. So these are must-haves, especially if you're using any form of medication. If you're an athlete, you're going through high stress, if you're getting to the tail end of prep, if you're using orals, these are must-haves. And then if you really are suffering and you've got to the point where, damn, I've got leaky gut, I'm starting to notice brain fog, I'm getting immune responses, then tune in to the next videos where I start talking about how to really salvage that using not just natural supplements, but this is like high-level biohacking, not conventional medicine. How can I fix a problem that most people don't know how to fix? Thank you for tuning in again to the Apex Directive. Usually we're in the gym and we'll do an Apex Flex. This is information education, so here's an Apex Brain Flex. Signing out.